Well, welcome. Glad to be here. It's finally winter has arrived, and it's the end of February, first part of March. So we do have to hope that spring comes quickly, right? Because it was pretty cold yesterday. But anybody ever see this quote from Dr. Seuss? Do you like that quote? I mean, I like that quote. That's why I put it up there, I guess. So, but it says, "Be who you are and say what you feel, because those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind." And I think Dr. Seuss had a lot of good truth to his books and his sayings, and I recommend reading Dr. Seuss. So there you go. But today we're going to talk about degrees of clients, or levels at which our clients are committed to us. And I'll start by saying that there's a mathematical formula that I didn't invent it, but I talk about it regularly, which discusses or analyzes how many clients you need to be busy consistently. And for you to have a full book, this is what you need in terms of number of clients. And I'll say that the formula is pretty accurate. It's not 100% accurate, but it's pretty accurate. It doesn't factor in life events, because sometimes clients have life events that happen that cause them to miss appointments and that. But with high 90% accuracy, the way that you figure out how many clients you need to be busy consistently is multiplying three numbers together. And the first number that we're going to have in the equation is the number of days you want to work in a week. Then we multiply that by the number of clients you want to see in a day. And then we multiply that by the number of weeks at which it takes for clients to start returning. So on average, how many weeks between their appointments. So just to give an example then, if you want to work 5 days a week and see 5 clients a day, and your clients come in every 5 weeks, they start to cycle back in. So you need 125 clients, because we times 5 times 5, which is 25 times 5, which is 125. Okay, and usually cosmetology, you could be as high as 400 clients or even higher, just depending on the frequency at which clients come back in. And then on the lower end of the spectrum is the nail kids, because their clients are typically back in about every 2 weeks or less. But it's just something for you to put paper to pencil, because you need to get to that number. And sometimes when you look at that number, it's like it's a little disheartening. And so just realize that it's starting with one client to get the ball rolling, and that's where you need to focus. But in this, I want to talk about then, or I'm going to encourage you to put that formula to paper so that you know what you're dealing with. So you have this elephant that you got to eat. Have you ever heard that? How to eat an elephant? First off, who wants to eat an elephant? That does not look appealing to me at all, or sound appealing. But the answer is one bite at a time, right? So it is you looking and saying, hey, I need whatever your number is going to be. And right now I have 0, or right now maybe you have 10, or whatever your number is, because you're all relatively new. And now it's, how do I get to adding clients to my number? And that's it, just starting with one person at a time. We all have this dream, and I know you have one, or you wouldn't be here in school, and typically people in our industry are driven by their dream. And that dream is to either own your own shop, to work out of your home, whatever that dream is, be an educator, and it's all tied to the success that you want to have. And thinking about the success is the fun part. Creating the success is where maybe the hard part. Not impossible, and realize that you have instructors who are out there living this, and I'll pick on Burgundy because she's sitting right here. And Burgundy works on clients and does well doing it. And is it drudgery to go to work when you're working on clients, Burgundy? Yeah, so Burgundy loves it. And that's what I see when I visit graduates is that, I've heard on multiple occasions, I can't believe I get paid to do this, and making people feel better about themselves. But it is the fun part, or not even the easy part, but the fun part is thinking about all the success. It's right now, it's identifying and analyzing where you're at. And now let's build it. The exciting thing, when we started this school over 10 years ago, and Facebook really wasn't a thing, and Instagram wasn't even on the board, and Snapchat, hadn't been created by perverts yet. Yeah, that's what I feel about Snapchat, but it's because it's freaking weird. Let's face it, it's I won't go there because we're live and my mom's watching. But these social medias weren't invented yet, and as our graduates would leave, it was a solid year to a year and a half for them to get to where they're busy. And now we're seeing the top performers as they get out there are getting busy within a 6-month period of time, which has never happened before in the history of working in this industry. So it's exciting, and it's engaged. It's you engaging in social media. It's you putting yourself out there for the world to see. And if you'll do these things, then we're seeing again that people are building a business, not complete, but a solid book within 6 months versus a year to a year and a half, which again is very exciting. So the hardest part of this is finding clients, and Barbara gets this where she's doing research and looking and talking to people, and this is one of the things that people ask on a regular basis. How do I find clients? So I'm not going to give you necessarily an X's and O's answer, but I am going to give you an answer nonetheless, and that is step outside your comfort zone. Okay, if doing something scares and terrifies you, then it means that it's probably what you should be doing. Okay, so in that, I'm going to tell you about the success of one of our graduates who went out and in 1 month's time found 32 clients. 1 month. Just so you know that if you can find 32 new clients every month, it's going to take you probably 4 months to 5 months before you're really solid book a business. And she was using social media a little bit, but what she did is she put together a flyer of a special. And then she walked around to strip malls and into doctors' complexes and places like that where they had no soliciting on the door, and walked in and introduced herself and gave them a flyer. How does that sound to you in the room? How many of you want to go do that? Okay, Trish does, yeah. And I'm sorry, what's your name? Eliza, yeah. And oh yeah, because you're here for 500 hours because the state of Idaho, freaking out state of Idaho. Yeah. Anyway, we're glad you're here. But so yeah, so good. The fact that you're willing to go do that is great. But there was only 2 out of everybody that raised their hand, because it's like, oh my gosh, that makes my stomach hurt. That makes my stomach hurt, just thinking about walking into a place, no soliciting on the door, and saying, hey, I'm Tyler and I want to do your eyebrows. I mean, that just is not going to work, right? That's weird, yeah. But whatever these ideas, and that's just one method, right? Of, hey, I need to get my name out there. But if you walked into a place and you start talking to the person behind the counter and handed them a flyer and said, they're not going to kick you out because you're really not selling anything. You're just giving them information. But the second that person asks you a question, what's the upside to them asking you a question? What do you think? They're showing interest. And in fact, I say high probability that you can schedule an appointment with them. Okay? So that's an indicator. If they just take your flyer and say, okay, yeah, thanks, realize you walk out the door, they crumple it up and they throw it away. So it's going to take how many flyers to see one client, and I don't know the answer to that, but it's more than one, I'll say that. So part of something I do up at the university is I help with some mentorship and things like that. And there's these guys that are going out to sell pest control for the summer, and they make pretty good money at it. And some of them I'm a little concerned for them because they're very shy and reserved. And so what I'm I guess telling them is, look, you need to quantify how many no's it takes to get to a yes, so that you know, okay, I got 50 no's and now 51 is when I get a yes, so that you'll go get those 50 no's. And then when you quantify and say, out of how many no's does it take for me to get a yes, then get better at the no's, and so that you can shrink those no's down so that you can get a yes sooner. Okay, so if that is terrifying to you, then I'm going to encourage you to go do it. You walk into places, or you go up to people and you pay a compliment, you hand them a card from Austin Cade, and you say, hey, I'm a student at Austin Cade, I really like your shoes, and fashion and beauty is important to me, and I'd like to work on your hair, your skin, your nails, whatever. And again, if that terrifies you, good. I'm here to challenge you to step outside your comfort zone, because you have a dream, and that dream is contingent upon you being uncomfortable to be able to find the people that you need to go out and be successful. Here's, anyway, some suggestions is passing out cards. The best way and the easiest way for you to find clients is through your existing clients. So when you do have an existing client in your chair take that opportunity to say, hey, I'm trying to build my business. Will you please help me? Will you hand out 3 business cards to your friend? And if you do that, this is what I'll do for you. Facebook, which is really social media events. Look as you graduate from school and get out there, look to go and participate in events. In the summertime, there's a Live After 5, which is a great, and a lot of cities have those type of events where people are coming together. 4th of July in our city is a great event, but look for opportunity to get your name out there. Okay. So anyway, here's some painful processes, and because the first group of clients is future clients. That's when you don't have a lot of business yet, the bulk of your number, whatever your number is, your clients are, and today we're going to be talking about, your clients fall into these categories or these degrees, okay? So if your number is 125 and you don't have any clients yet, then you have 125 future clients that you have to go find. And I will encourage you to get a piece of paper out and look and start listing your clients and where they fall. This is just a number. This doesn't have names to it. This is just a number. The next 3 categories will have names in those categories, okay? And one category, I'm going to tell you just a teaser, is you don't want names in the last category that we're going to talk about, but it's going to happen still. So the first category of client then, and where you're still in school and you're learning, is finding future clients. And I know that you have a support group, and I know that you can get your support group in here, and I know your support group knows people. So start with your support group and then start banging on them to give you referrals, because that's where you're going to start. Okay, if you look at any industry, whether it's selling houses or real estate, they always start with their family, and then their family, and the beauty space is no different, and then the family helps to build from there. Okay, but here's that mathematical formula. If I take A times B and then I times it by C, it's going to spit out a number, A being the number of days I want to work in a week, B being the number of clients I want to see in a day. That tells me in 1 week's time I need X amount of clients, and then how many of those weeks do I need before my clients start returning. So anyway, and again, where you're new, a lot of the clients that you have are future clients. They're out there, they're existing. You're in a city that every year grows. This region of Idaho, as cold and bitter as it is today, right? I mean, who got up and it was cold this morning? I mean, 12 freaking degrees. I mean, there's probably people from Florida watching this who are like, "What? You guys get out of bed and it's 12 degrees?" It's like, yeah. But anyway, eastern Idaho grows every year. For 10 years that I've lived here, every year the city of Idaho Falls and Ammon and surrounding areas have grown, which is reassuring that you're in the right spot because you're in an area that's growing. Okay, the next level of client, and we like these clients. These are clients that just kind of walk in. Okay, so they're clients that you haven't seen them before, but they walk in. Do we get them here at our school? Yeah, we get walk-in business that happens. We appreciate walk-in business. However, a walk-in client is not a loyal client. They walked in someplace else the time before and probably someplace else the time before that. It's not to say that you can't build the relationship required to keep them as a client long-term. It's just saying that that's kind of who they are. They shop at 7-Eleven and Maverick gas stations a lot, right? It's all about convenience for them, okay? So, okay, we're still up. My phone, I was like, whose phone's ringing? Oh, it's my phone. But this walk-in client is, we like these people, but again, they're just filling empty space that you have in your day. Again, not to say you can't build that relationship and keep them, but that's not kind of who they are at this point. So, but we'll take them, right? So walk-in clients is, hey, I didn't have anything, now I do. I'm getting a little bit of money today. Now I need to work hard to build a relationship to keep this client. Okay, the next client that I want to talk about is the current client. Okay. So this is somebody that you've seen at least on one occasion, okay, maybe multiple occasions. They're coming to you, they like you, but they could go to somebody else just as easy. Okay, so something's got to happen, and really it's again someone that you're getting to know. I guess you're consider it dating of the beauty space, right? So they're, again, they liked you enough that they came back, okay? But we need to, again, categorize and say, okay, who of my clients have I seen at least once, but they possibly could go to somebody else, okay? And now, what should you be thinking about that person? Okay, I've seen them at least once, maybe twice, but I believe that if somebody else was offering them something, they might go to that person. So what should you be thinking about for that client? Okay, how do I create the loyalty? Okay, how do I create the relationship with this person that's going to put them into the next category that we're going to talk about, which is lifelong client, okay? What is a lifelong client then?
Somebody that follows you no matter where you go.
Yeah, they're in. You're their person. They don't want to go to anybody else. And so you have these current clients that are there in the real world, and you've seen them at least once, and you're trying, you know, maybe you've done their hair or skin or nails twice even, and something has to happen to bump them into the next category, okay? What has to happen? Camille kind of touched on it, but what do you think has to happen? Karma, all right. So some karma, yeah, I mean, there has to be some of that happening, right? What else? What else has to happen?
Say that question one more time.
What has to happen to move someone from somebody that's coming to you and likes you but could go to somebody else into somebody that is bought in and you're their person?
Commitment. They have to have commitment.
They have to have commitment. So here and then here. What?
You have to give to them as much as they're willing to give to you.
Okay. So we have to have a relationship of, hey, I'm here for you, and you're more than just money to me. Okay.
Just wow them.
Wow them. Okay. I'm sorry. Click down. Yeah.
Well, give them something that other people can't give them, maybe.
Yeah. So other people, like what could you give them that other people can't?
Well, something that would wow them, that would
Okay.
stand out. It would be stand out.
Does it even have to be the service, though?
No.
I mean, we're not even talking about the service and bumping them to this category that we're going to spend some time discussing.
You
This-
become their friend.
Becoming their friend, okay? Have you had yet, and if you haven't, you're going to have it happen, have you had anyone that's dealing with a challenging situation in life come in and confide in you? Let me tell you, do not share that information, okay? Allison has had clients, so I say that. Now, she doesn't typically go into detail, but there's times where she has been dealing with a client that she had a client whose husband left her, kidnapped the kids, and went to Mexico, and she didn't see her kids, and they were little kids, and she didn't see her kids until well into their teenage years. And by the time she got the kids back, you know, Dad was telling her what a terrible person this was, and we're on the run in Mexico because your mom is so terrible that they didn't want anything to do with her. I mean, that's kind of a tough situation, right? But what we're talking about is this wow factor is that you are treating them like people and not dollars, okay? Because there are shops where it's all about dollars. And not to say that's good, bad, or indifferent, just saying that there are three things that are key to your success. And the first one is relationships. So what is it that you're going to do? And there is no magic bullet. I can't tell you what that is. I can just tell you that you're treating them like a valid human being that they are. That's what you're doing. So if it's good times and you're listening to good times, great. If it's hard times and you're listening to hard times, great. Be there for them, but it's the fact that you're doing something for this person to alleviate stress or to add to their joy. Okay, so we're either helping them with stress or adding to their joy. And if you'll do that, then that's where we put them into this lifelong client category, where they will drive up to 4 hours to have you perform their services. And there is a study that says there's a 4-hour radius of which people will travel to get their hair done. Okay, so here we live in eastern Idaho, and we have the two biggest cities nearest to us are Boise, Idaho, and Salt Lake City, Utah. Does anybody know anybody that goes to those two cities to get their services done? So I'm seeing heads nod yes. So is it that there's no one qualified in eastern Idaho to facilitate those services for those people? No, there are highly qualified people in where we live. It's just that the person that they go to has that relationship where they did something for this person that creates it so they're willing to spend a whole day of travel, 8 hours of travel, 4 hours one way, 4 hours back, plus the service. Okay? Burgundy.
So with that being said, I have a client that drives from Twin Falls every 3 weeks down here to get her lashes done. And one reason she said she does that and is willing to do that is because I'm present during the service.
Yeah.
So as I'm doing her lashes and she's explaining things to me, when she comes down like 3 weeks later, I ask her, how was your trip? How did it go? How was your job interview? How did that go? So you really want to pay attention to keywords that your clients are talking to you about, because when you bring it to their attention at the following appointment, they appreciate that more than we know.
Yeah. No, and so her client's saying you're present. Have you ever had anyone ask you a question and you go to answer it and they're not paying attention to what, they just asked a question to fill space? Yeah, awkward silence is better than doing what they just did, okay? They ask a question and then they're over here doing something and you answer it and then they're like looking at you like, why are you telling me this? Oh, because you asked the question. Oh yeah, I did, didn't I? So has there ever been, or does someone want to share an instance? So Burgundy shares the instance that her clients drive, it's about 2.5, 3 hours from Twin Falls to Idaho Falls. And again, there's people in Twin Falls that can do those, now not as good as Burgundy, but that can do those services, right? But that person's willing to drive every 3 weeks. That's a commitment, okay? People are committed to their own services, and women that have dogs that get their dogs groomed, their whole life revolves around their dog's grooming appointments too. So I don't know if this lady has a dog or not, but her life, if she does, her life is pretty full between coming and seeing Burgundy every 3 weeks and her dog appointment. So I don't know why I mentioned that, but we get into these, this thing that, hey, I'm committed, I'm bought in, and the reason is because Burgundy listens to me, and is present, and cares about me. I mean, these are all things that don't have anything to do with the service, and that I want to make you keenly aware of, that you're building a business, and number one, most important thing, more than the service itself, is the fact that you can build a relationship with people. So if you have a hard time building relationships with people, then you need to get good at that. Okay? What are ways in which we build relationships with people?
Text them.
What's
I
that?
text them. I had a client that had surgery, and I texted her and said, hey, how'd your surgery go? And
Yeah.
she's like, nobody ever does that. She's like, I love you for that.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay. You know, like, just build a relationship with your client.
Yeah. So I've shared this story before, so some of you have heard it, and I wasn't going to share it until Trish kind of came up. So the fact that you took time to text somebody. So I lived in Japan for a couple of years. I was a missionary for my church. And one of the things we did as a service to the community was offered free English classes. And it was just like, come and we'll teach you English. And it was a ton of fun. And it was funny because sometimes you had these rednecks that couldn't even, that were teaching English, Americans that couldn't even speak English. I mean, well, their version of English. So, because I used to have Japanese people like, I do not know the word ain't. It's like, yeah, don't use that word. So anyway, but one day, or I should say one morning, about 2 in the morning, our phone rings, and I answer it, and it's I had this student that was coming to English class because her daughter married an American, and she wanted and knew that at some point she would have grandchildren, and she wanted to be able to speak to her grandchildren. And so anyway, her daughter called and said, hey, is this Price? And I'm like, yeah, this is Price. It's 2 a.m. Who's this? And she's like, hey, my mom is in your English class, and she thinks you're great. And I want you to know today's her birthday. Will you wish her a happy birthday? So I said, sure, we'll do that. What's the address? So she gave me the address and went back to bed, got up, and we made this card for this woman, and went to go deliver it. Well, it was Suyu, which is rainy season in Japan, which is you are not dry. It doesn't matter. You dry your body off and you're still wet. You just for about 2 months' time, you just accept the fact that you're wet. Okay. So we start out now. We went to a police station and said, hey, we're looking for this address. And so police are very good in Japan because they have no crime, and so they just sit around all day and they help people find addresses. Because in Japan, like if you had this street, like we have Woodruff out here, and all along Woodruff here in Idaho Falls, the numbers go lower or higher depending on which street you cross, right? But it's consecutively lower or higher. In Japan, they build a home, and the home's number is number 1. And then 5 miles down that road, they could build a house that is the second house on the street, and so that house's number is number 2. And so there is no rhyme or reason to the house numbers. So that's why you go to the police station and say, hey, I'm trying to find this house, and they have very intricate maps that they just sit there, and then they go along and they find the number you're looking for, and then you figure out where to go. Anyway, we show up, took some time, actually took a couple hours to find this lady's house, and we find the house, and we knock on the door, and we said, hey, we're here, just wishing you happy birthday, here's a card. And she invited us in and gave us lunch, and first off, when we said it, she's like, oh yeah, today's my birthday. And then she's like, you know, as the conversation went on, she's like, you know, my husband has never wished me a happy birthday. And her husband was kind of a jerk. Anyway, he's since passed, so I shouldn't talk ill of the dead. But if I were to talk ill of the dead, I would say he was kind of jerky. But so anyway, but from a stupid little card, that friendship grew even better. And she came. She's been in America. Allison's met her, and you know, I've lost contact over the years, unfortunately. But all it was a stupid little birthday card that this woman was like very touched about, and you know, she didn't even, she was like, oh yeah, today's, she even forgot it was her birthday. So anyway, just in that, just saying that, hey, you know, things like knowing their name, wishing them happy birthday, checking on them when there's a surgery like Trish did. These things, while they may not seem big to you, the recipient, to them, it's showing that someone cares. And if we went around trying to help people realize that they're important, think of how powerful that would be. And think about what type of world we would have if that was our focus, instead of being divided in political stances on topics, right? And so if it was, hey, this person's important and I want them to know that they're important, that anyway, that would go a long way. So this lifelong client, then, it is a category of clients that I don't have the answer of this is how you do it, other than you touch them. And because you touch them, and because they're important to you, and because you treat them like a real person, then they're going to drive the 3 hours. And again, I mentioned that, and Burgundy then says, yeah, I got a client that's driving 3 hours. So that's real, okay? And so in this process, then, these lifelong clients, they are clients that value your time, so they show up on their appointments on time. So a lady that's driving 3 hours, is she typically late or on time? She's on time. She's driving 3 hours. The woman that lives 10 minutes from you, she's showing up 30 minutes late and screwing up your day, right? But these people that buy in, they know that you're working hard, so they're on time. They're buying product from you. They're referring friends to you. They're rebooking their appointments. They're doing all the things. And these are the clients that you want. When you're first out there working hard, you're going to take whatever comes your way. That's why I start with walk-in traffic. We'll take that walk-in traffic. But that walk-in traffic isn't loyal to you, and because of that, at some point, you want to be busy enough that you don't need the walk-in client. So anyway, this one is, it's not about the service. It's not about the business steps. It's not about any of that. It's about you doing something for this person. So if you have a hard time building relationships, then you need to start studying, how do I build relationships? You need to start reading books. You need to start coming outside your comfort zone. You need to start doing the things that, and it's not about being insincere, it's about the fact that you want to make that change in your life and be someone that can build strong relationships with your guests and with your own people within your inner circle. Okay? All right. So lifelong client, this is where we want the bulk of our numbers, okay, to be in this category. And once this category fills the bulk of our numbers, then life is really good. Life is really good because you get to kind of, because these people are going to want, I mean, they're there to support you. They're your friends. And if you say, you know what, I'm not working on Saturday anymore, they're not leaving you. They're with you. Or if it's, hey, I want to scale back to 3 days a week, and these are the 3 days I'm going to work, they're going to accommodate that. Okay? So these, trust me, these are the clients you want. So, all right, the last category is the category that's no fun to talk about, but we got to talk about it, okay? And that's former clients. Does this happen? I mean, it'll happen. So retention is the most important thing that you're going to do to build your business. And we retain our guests by rebooking their appointments, okay? So if we have, with regularity, okay, so if we look and say, all right, I have 10 clients, and out of those 10 clients, now I only have 5. So I'm only retaining 50% of my business. That's a problem, okay? Now, if the story is I have 10 clients and I retain 10 clients, then life is good. Or if I have 10 clients and I retain 9 of the 10, then again, life is good. But when we start to slip, those numbers start going down to 70%, 60%, 50% or less, then that means you're spending the bulk of your time finding new clients. That's where your time is spent, okay? And that's a painful place to be. That's where you're at right now. Okay, so at some point, we don't want that to happen. But if retaining guests, if I do a client one time and then I don't see them again, or if I do a client a couple times and then they slip away, then I have to start looking and saying, why is that? Excuse me. Is that a fun situation to be in, first off? I'm working hard, I'm kind of busy, but I'm only retaining 40% of my business. How many of you want to start really finding the excuse me, the answers to the question of why am I losing clients? Raise your hand if you want to know. Yeah. No, I want to know. I want to know. If you have a bad experience at Austin Cade, I want to know. Okay, when people leave here, you get an exit interview and you get to say whatever you want to say. Now that information does get back to me, and typically it's good, but when it's bad, I want to know. And I'm now at the stance of not only do I want to know, but I want to have a conversation with you. And it's not to be argumentative. It is, what can I do to be better school owner? That's the conversation. So if there's things and I know that we're not perfect, and I also know you're not perfect, but I'm not going to put the blame on you. I want to know, are staff members treating you with respect? Are we fair in how we do things? I mean, and if we're not, then I can make changes. They're not always instant, but they will happen, because I want you to leave having had a good experience so that you can go out and earn money and get after it, okay? So we have Miss Arkansas, again, what's your name? Arkansas, right?
Yeah, it's Eliza.
Eliza, okay? So get to know Eliza. She had to come back to school here because she had 1,500 hours in Arkansas, and the state of Idaho requires 2,000. She was already out working. I mean, I feel bad that we have her here. And so we're trying to make this as easy and as painless as possible. And we said, okay, Eliza, here's the money that we're going to charge you. And we try to get that as low as we can. And then it's like, come in and be here from 8 in the morning till 10 at night, but let's get you out earning money, right? I like her being here, but at the same time, I'd rather her be out earning money, not being here. So, yeah, Eliza too. So, and don't call her Miss Arkansas, but unless you like that.
I don't care.
She doesn't care. I call her Eliza. I call her by her name, right? I'm just teasing. But you need to identify, okay, I did this client this day, and here I am a month and a half later, and I haven't seen that client again. They didn't rebook. Now I'm 2 months later, so I'm 60 days out. Should they have been back in? Okay, so if you're seeing that happen with some frequency, then we need to call those people. Okay, so just like I'm saying, I don't want to hear that you had a bad experience, but I definitely want to hear that. I mean, I hope that you have a good experience here at school, so that we don't have to have the conversation of you guys suck and this is why, right? But I'm also willing to have the conversation of you guys suck and this is why, so that I can get better. Okay, so in that, if you're not seeing a high number not returned, then I wouldn't necessarily worry about it. But if it is, it's something that's happening and you're not retaining guests, then you need to call them and realize that when you call them, you're putting them on the spot a little bit, because do people want to hurt your feelings? I mean, the people that do, it's like, don't be around them, right? But if you called someone and said, hey, I did your eyelashes and I haven't seen you back, are you still getting eyelashes done? And they say yes, and well, can I ask you, is there something I could have done better? And then realize that the first answer out of their mouth probably isn't what's causing them not to come. And so then there needs to be the follow-up question of, okay, in addition to that, is there anything else? Okay, so I will say that this isn't a fun conversation to call someone and have, but it's still a conversation that needs to happen if you're not seeing your clients come back with some frequency. If you're not seeing clients move into the lifelong client category, then we need to identify what is the problem. And if the problem is you, then you can fix that. You really can. Okay, but you need to know what the problem is. If the problem is, yeah, your prices were too high, that's a problem that you're going to have to live with, because in terms of pricing in this industry, it's not about who has the lowest prices, and there's a whole group of people that live in that. That's the race to the bottom, just so you know. I'm gonna do a set of eyelash. Okay, how long does a set of eyelashes take? First off, Burgundy, if it's not a fill, if it's a full set.
It takes me about an hour and a half to do classic and 2 hours to do volume.
Okay, so who's the cheapest place out there?
I don't know, I see advertisement on Facebook all the time for $45.
Okay, so $45 for 2 hours minus time, minus renting space, minus all these things, because I've got a graduate that's more in the $200 range for the same service. So, and I'm not going to put Burgundy on the spot in terms of what your prices are, but they better be higher than $45, right? Yeah. But again, I do have a graduate that I know that's more in the $200 range for that first set, and then for fills it's less. But anyway, the point being with that is if a client were to say, well, you know, I really wanted to come to you, but your pricing is too high, then say, oh, well, don't apologize for it. Say, okay, well, I know a very good stylist who's a little newer. Her prices are a little less. If you're interested, here you go. Okay. So anyway, that's the one area that we can kind of live with it, because you know, your business is your business, and you're not competing on price, hopefully. And so if that client says, oh, your prices are too high, realize that the knee-jerk reaction might be, oh, well, what, you know, I can do your appointment for less. And realize that if you have to start, okay, I charge this client this much money, and this client this much money, and this client this much money, that's a bad that's a bad environment to live in. So just stay true to your pricing. But the level of clients, I mean, first off, realize again, there's this mathematical formula that you need to put to paper. How many clients do you need to be busy? And we get it by timesing the number of days we work in a week, by the number of clients we want to see in a day, by the frequency at which clients return. So those three numbers give us a number. Okay, multiplying those three numbers together. And then realize that we get clients through our efforts of stepping outside our comfort zone, handing out business cards, walking into places of business, going to events, talking to people, and sharing posts on social media. And whatever referrals, I mean, there's a whole litany of ways in which you can find clients. Then from there, it is realize there's going to be walk-in traffic, which are people that up to this point haven't been loyal to anybody. They haven't found the right person. You got clients that you're kind of working on, but they could go other directions. And then we got these clients that we've taken the time to build the relationship with, and they love us. They will only go to us. If there tends to be this problem of retaining clients, and we've got a bunch of former clients, then we need to start being willing to make phone calls and text messages to find out what the real issue is. And then from there, we just put our head down and work hard. Again, this is an exciting time for you to be in this industry. There's never been a time at which somebody can come out of school and build a solid book of business as quickly as you can now. Instagram, Snapchat, and Facebook were built for the beauty space. So if you aren't currently engaged in those social medias, you need to start looking and figuring it out in terms of your beauty business, of how to start adopting some of those practices and using those methods. So